Good morning everyone, it's Monday morning, it's 9 o'clock, so it is time for our level 1 mat class. So, sorry, that's just the CD player. Do make sure that you have a mat or a carpeted area, and if you need it for assistance, a cushion or a block to prop yourself up if some of the positions are uncomfortable for you. And do make sure that you listen to the modifications. So if you have an injury or a long-term condition that needs careful consideration when exercising, then do listen out for those. If you struggle with kneeling, then please do grab yourself a sturdy chair, and some of these moves you will be able to do in seated when we are down in 4-point position on the mats. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to grab those things, and hopefully we're all feeling fit and well. Who have we got in this morning? Christine and Louise, lovely. Good morning to you. Okay, so we are going to start in our good standing posture. Shoulders relaxed down, and it's not, I'm aware there's a bit of a shadow across here, isn't there? That's because the sun's not quite as high as it was in the first lockdown. It's a bit later in the day, right? So toes level, give them a little bit of a wriggle, gently lift the arches. Let's just bring ourselves into that good standing posture, find that connection into your core, neutral pelvis, and just standing tall. Let's think about softly retracting that chin so that we have our ears over our shoulders rather than forwards of them. So just think about pulling that chin. I'll turn slightly sideways, slightly back, and just find that length in your spine. Take a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And while you're focusing into your breath, just take a moment to connect, just tune in, listen to your bodies, notice if there's anywhere that feels a little bit achy or niggly that you need to be careful with today before we go into our warm-up, and get everything just gently moving once more. So from there we're just going to bring the chin back and bring it down. And I'd like you to just roll the ear towards the shoulder, take a breath in, and as you exhale, gently roll to the other side. So neck issues, just take this very gently and carefully. And what I'd like you to think about while you're doing this move is that you don't let that shoulder come up with you. So the aim is to get a stretch down here. So we inhale to stretch, and we exhale to move. And then let's come back to the centre again and just restack the head. Moving on to the shoulders, let's shrug them up and roll them back and down. Just connect that movement with your breath. Slowing it down, allowing that breath to be very full. Okay, from there, we're just going to swing the arms in opposition. Think about keeping the shoulders open as you move, so that as the arm goes back, we're not allowing that shoulder to fold inwards, we're keeping it open. So we've got that lovely sense of width right across the chest. And bringing the arms down. Now let's take a little reach over to the side and pull back up. And over to the other side and pull back up. Now see if you can use your breath to just enhance that movement. So we take a breath in and a breath out. let's go back to those arm swings, but make them a little bit bigger and add in our foot pedal. So let's lift the heel and roll back down. So those of you who tend to turn your feet outwards, so that's toes out and heels in, just think about where your heel placement is going. Think about the hips. And those of you who lock your knees, feel what happens as you straighten that leg. Try to straighten it fully, but without locking back into the kneecap. Now, if you're somebody who tends to roll their arches inwards, just see if as you land, you can land into the centre of your heel. Now, we're going to take the heel down, bring the other arm up, and let's continue with those foot pedals, but with a bow and arrow. So let's pull back. Now, if it's appropriate for you, so if your spine and abdominals are okay with rotation, then let's follow that elbow round and take a little rotation. Just notice what happens in your back as you do this. Hopefully just feeling a little bit of a stretch on one side, but mostly feeling it in your abdominals. So if you're feeling it mostly in your back, you're very probably lifting your hip and twisting the pelvis as you turn. So think about those hips staying level and turning from above the hips. Let's do one more to each side. And then into arm circles. Let's take a breath in. And exhale, reach really wide and down. And again, breath in and out. So shoulder issues, listen to your shoulders. Make sure that you're not working through pain or aggravating any symptoms. And let's take one more arm circle. Okay, we're going to go into those side stretches now. So if you've had a hip replacement quite historically, so more than 10 years, or you've had one very recently, less than 6 months, then I'd like you to keep your feet where they are. Also, if that causes any discomfort or your balance isn't brilliant. Otherwise, could you bring your feet together for me and think of zipping the knees together? I'd like you to find that midline connection all the way up the body. The arm is going to go over the head unless you've got a shoulder issue or blood pressure issue, in which case I'd like you to take it across the chest instead. So the shoulders stay down, we're going to reach up. Now zip those knees together and reach across the ceiling. Pull back up and bring the arm down. Changing sides, so we're lengthening through the body rather than the arm. There's a lovely space between your shoulder and your ear. And if you can, you could use that breath to just enhance that stretch. So as you reach across, that's where we can take a nice big breath in and feel that we're getting a deeper stretch into the side of the body. Let's do one more to each side. Zipping across and down. We still got that lovely connection into the midline. And Fantastic. Right, from there, stay where your feet are. I'm going to turn on a slight angle here. We're going to take the arms forwards again. Try and keep that connection. We're going to follow one hand and bring it back in. Same arm, let's follow it out. So we're just turning the head and opening the arm. We're not moving the shoulders or the hips. See how this feels for you. Now, if you need to, stay with this. We're going to go to the other side now, but in a moment we're going to add in a rotation. So if you have a spinal condition that doesn't like rotation, so particularly osteoporosis, or if you have a diastasis or an abdominal hernia, then I'd like you to step to hip distance and allow your hips to move. Otherwise we're going to stay fixed and we're going to open that arm and then exhale, rotate and bring it back. Let's take that out again. Now exhale so that you can feel you draw those abdominals in and back. So if you're allowing the hips to move, then you're here and you're letting the hips go too. One more this side. Exhale so that you can squeeze those knees together and rotate. Lovely, let's do that to the other side. So we're going to open out and exhale, rotate. Just following that hand gently round. And one last one. And bringing the arms down. Just give those shoulders a roll. And we're going to step to a little bit wider now. Ready for our monkey squat. So what I'd like you to do is lengthen that spine, get that core connection. We're coming into the heels and then we're going to hinge forwards and come down into our squat and pushing back up. So feel that wonderful connection to the floor, pressing through the heels, but the big toe, all the toes are staying connected. Now, shoulder issues, you might like to stay with this. Otherwise, we're going to take the arms up and we're going to swim round. So as we lower down, you're going to push the arms round, squeeze the shoulder blades together and come back again. We're going to turn and squeeze round and back up. So feel how the chest opens, the shoulder blades squeeze together. Make sure that you feel you're reaching down your back rather than pulling up into the shoulders. Reach away, like you're trying to grab something that's behind you. One more. Reach away and back in, and let's finish with a nice arm circle. Just stretch out and down. Lovely. We're going to come into a little split stance sequence now. So if your balance isn't great, keep your stance a little shorter. Keep your range of movement a little bit smaller. Maybe be near a wall where you can put your hand out, or a chair. Otherwise, try and take a good wide stance, and we're just going to make sure that those hips are square to the front. And let's take the arms forwards. Just gently retract the shoulders and flex the wrists. We're going into the gazelle. If you need to, leave your toes down at the front, but if you can, we're going to lift them as we rock back and take a big breath in, rock forwards, reach for the ceiling. I'd like to reach through the heels of the hands. Breath in. And we've got one more. And then let's bring the arms down. We're going to go straight into lunges, so take a little hinge forwards. And we're going to focus our energy into that front leg. Pressing down into the heel and pushing back up. So it's shoulders over toes as though you're going to fasten your shoelaces. Now if you're not really feeling your hamstrings, the back of your thigh, and you're feeling it all in the front, press more into your heel than into the toes. We're going to take one more. Can you hold this? And can you give me a bow and arrow? If it's safe for you to rotate, can you add that in? Can you reach out and circle over and push up? Now let's lean a bit further forwards. Take the arms up. Can you reach that back leg away? Really stretch it out and lift the toe. Keep a straight leg and then bring it down and bring it back in. Wonderful. Let's do that to the other side. So we're hip distance. Remember, the width of your feet is determined by how steady you're feeling today, by how your balance is feeling. Okay, so we'll take those arms forwards and flex those wrists. Let's roll through that back foot, bring the arms down, and big breath in, push forwards and up. One last one. And bringing those arms down. So again, take that little hinge forwards. Let's focus on pressing down into the heel. Shoulders are over the toes and pushing back up. Now just take a moment to think about your back foot. Do you feel like your heel is pointing away from you? Or have you turned that leg out or in? Feel where the pressure is. And we've got one more, holding it if you can. Hold. Can you give me a bow and arrow? Now keep those hips level. If it's appropriate, can you turn, reach the arm out and over the top. Now press onto that front leg. Let's take the arms up, reach that toe away, slide it away from you and lift. And bring it back in. Wonderful. Let's take those hands onto the hips and just give the wrists a little release. And give them a little shake out. Okay, we're going to come safely down onto the mats now into seated. So remember, if that's not available to you, pop yourself into a sturdy chair, preferably a wooden one that's a nice flat seat and a nice straight back. And if you are seated, try and sit in the front third of the chair so that you've got plenty of space behind you. to move your body. So we're going to come down into seated. I'll give you a moment to get here. Just lengthening up through the spine. Now I know there are some of you who grip your hips and find this quite challenging. So just open the chest, lean back, lengthen the legs out, feel how the hips ungrip. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, lift up tall and pull the legs in through your abdominals. Okay, if you're still feeling a bit of a grip, take a slouch forwards, breath into the back. And then exhale, curl up, lift out of the hips, and let's take hold of behind the knees. Now I'd like you to feel that you are up on those sitting bones. Your feet and your knees are the same width as your hips, so do watch for knees being dropped in or dropped out. Try as much as you can to have them hip distance and the feet flat. Okay, let's take our awareness into the spine, opening the shoulders and feeling that we're sat very tall on those sitting bones. Now we're going to curl back a little. This is brilliant for anyone with stenosis or bulging discs. If you have osteoporosis, I want you to take this very gently. So we're going to take a little breath out and just curl the pelvis under. So notice where you start this movement from. Do you start it from your shoulders? Think about them staying tall and start that movement at your tailbone and let it travel up the spine towards the rib cage. Exhale, little curl back, and it's as though you're reaching away from your legs. Reach away from your legs and pull back up. Let's do one more like this, and hopefully you're feeling your tummy muscles activating as you do it, and that's what you're using to get that curl, and we're not just slumping back into the spine. Now, if you have any spinal issues or you have osteoporosis, I'd like you to stay here. Similarly, if you've got stenosis, you can take your arms free for the curl back, but I'd like you to avoid the extension when we come up. So if you can, we're going to take those arms free and just retract the shoulders. Curling back. And coming back up, but this time, if it's appropriate, lift the arms. Take a little extension, so feel as though you're trying to lean away from your hips. And exhale, curl back again. Inhale, lift and open. Exhale, curl back. Inhale, lift and open. One last time. And lift and open. Lovely. From there, we're going to take the hands behind us and just open the shoulders. I'd like you to lean back into the hands. Now, if that's not comfortable, please do come down onto your forearms. Instead, you'll be a little bit lower, but that's okay. So I want you to just try and have a nice open chest, tall spine, and let's stretch the legs out. So we're going to start with some footwork. Relax the feet and make sure you're not pushing the back of your knees into the floor. Think more anchor through your heels. Now, as we breathe out, I'd like you to push the ball of the foot forwards and down and feel your arch contract. And then let's push the heel away, draw the toes towards you and push forwards and down. Now as you pull back, try if you can to really work into this shin muscle at the top. Really use that to pull your toes towards you. Pushing down and pulling back. And again, if this isn't comfortable, if you've got a chair, you could do this with one leg extended, sat in the chair, and do one leg at a time. So hopefully we've got those feet switched on a little bit now. Let's just soften the knees and just take a little reach around the feet. Breath into the back, and then let's come up and back to that position. Now, we're going to turn the legs out from the hip and bring the heels together. Now, I want you to try and get that same feeling in the feet. Push the ball of the foot forwards, get those arches switched on. Now lift one leg, cross it over, flex the feet, uncross and bring it down. Push forward, switch those feet on. Let's lift and cross, flex the feet and let's uncross. And again, stretch those feet away, lifting up through that inner thigh, across. So this is great for those of you who do stand. I know we're in turn out, but for those of you who stand with your legs turned out, it's that inner thigh that we're trying to really get activated. So by working in this position, getting that muscle switching on, that's going to really help with your leg positioning. Lift and down. We're going to do one more each leg. Stretch and lift and across, flex and over. Last time, let's stretch those feet, lift and cross over. Let's flex the feet, lift and come back. And again, let's just draw those feet in and give ourselves a little hug around the legs and recover. Okay, from there we're going to come into a position called on the walk. Now if this is not comfortable for you, again you could sit into a chair or you can do some side stretches in kneeling or standing, or it might help if you just pop a cushion underneath this hip or your block just to lift you up. So if you feel this hip is gripping, just gently excuse me, push that knee away and into the floor, but try not to lift your bottom off. So just think push down and away. Now let's take that hand slightly to the side, open this shoulder, and we're going to take the arm up. We're going to sweep it across the body, follow that hand and lift and take a stretch and take it back again. So as we stretch across, try and keep that hip anchored rather than letting it go with you. We're going to do one more like this. Now you might prefer to stay here. I'm not adding the lift, I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space. Okay, otherwise if you're happy to lift the hips and it feels okay for you, we're going to lift the hips and take a bigger stretch. So let's lift the hips and stretch. So again, spinal stenosis, because this is extension, not ideal for you, just stay with the arm. If you need to strengthen up your back, this is a really nice one to do. Let's do one more. Lift and stretch. And down. Okay, from there, we're going to come down onto the forearm and just take the legs softly bent. Feel that you're pushing away from the floor. We're lifting this side and drop the top foot in front. So we're going into mermaid, and there may be some different variations for you to do. So if you're unable to come down onto the mat and you're doing this in standing, what I'd like you to do is take a lean away from a wall. Okay, so have your elbow against the wall, standing up tall, and you're going to reach over and just move your ribs away from the wall. Making sure that you feel those hips are stacked. We've got kneecap rolling towards the floor. Let's take that arm up, and as you exhale, lift the ribs away from the floor and come back down. Now if this causes discomfort in the neck, turn and look down towards your forearm. So you're going to lift and down. Now keep going with that if that's feeling okay for you. If you're not enjoying being in this propped position, you're going to come down onto your block and go into side leg one. But I'd like to really try and keep that bottom leg active, and if it's appropriate for you, so not if you have osteoporosis, you could do side leg two, bringing that bottom leg up as well on the exhale. So those are your variations. Now, if it's appropriate for you to lift your hips and you'd like to today, let's take that arm up, lift the ribs, and then let's lift the hips, come up and over, and back down. But what I'd like you to notice is as you lift, are you pushing away from that arm? I'd like you to stay right over it. Often I find people with shoulder issues find this very uncomfortable because they're pushing away, and that's putting a lot of force through the shoulder. So if you think of staying right over that elbow, it will help to alleviate that feeling, and you will be much, much stronger and much more stable. So just feel what's going on in the body. Right, from there, let's just push ourselves up, and we'll just turn the head over one shoulder and centre, and over the other shoulder and centre, and nod the chin down and just let the head roll. And centre. Okay. Giving those knees a little hug in. And we're going to come to the other side now. So on the walk and taking that hand slightly behind you. So let's try and settle both hips down if you can. And think again, if you're gripping, push that knee softly down and away. Let's lift out of the shoulder and take that arm out. Let's sweep across, take a big breath in, and back again. Taking a breath in, and a breath out. One more. Now stay here if that's more appropriate for you. So if you don't feel able to lift, particularly shoulder issues, or if extension isn't good for you, so if you have stenosis, stay with this movement. But if you can, you're going to sweep that arm across, lift the hips, and come back down. So again, feel that you're really anchored through this arm, and you're pushing up and over it. Let's take one more. And out. Wonderful. Okay. Coming down onto the side. So remember, if you were fully on your side, on the other one, and doing side leg one or side leg two, grab your block and repeat on this side. However, if you were doing mermaid, let's bring those legs in and just drop that top foot slightly in front. Knees together, let's roll forwards onto the knees. And we're going to take that arm up and over and back. So this time the hand is in line with the hip. Oh, we did it on the forearm, didn't we? I'm doing the more advanced version. Lifting away from the floor. Lift those ribs and down. So remember, you're going to stay here if this is more appropriate for you. If you can move that on and it's safe for you to do so, let's lift the hips and reach over. Remember, if that neck is feeling uncomfortable, turn the chin, look down to your forearm, and that will help to release the neck. Let's take one more. And down. Wonderful. Okay, coming up, just sitting tall, and again we're just going to roll the head down and to the side, not back. And up. Okay, wonderful. Now, we're going to go into some work lying on our back, but I'm going to give a little variation for those of you for whom forward flexion, so bending your spine forwards, isn't appropriate. So if that is you, so if you have maybe some spinal issues in the neck or the upper back, or you're already quite rounded and the head is forwards, then I'd like you to stay up in kneeling, and we're going to do the 100 here. Okay? Same if you have abdominal issues or osteoporosis, I'd like you to stay in kneeling for me. Otherwise, come down safely onto the mat, and we're going to look at a couple of different variations of the 100. So feet are firmly planted, we've got space between the ribs and the hips, and we can feel we've got even pressure on each side of the pelvis at the back. So you can keep head and shoulders down. We're just going to reach and lift. If you're in kneeling, you're not lifting, I'd like you to push the arms slightly behind you. Chin is nodded, and we're just going to beat. So we're going to take 5 for a breath in, and 5 for a breath out. And you're going to try and challenge yourself to keep your core as still as you possibly can. Now, if you're feeling strong and able, you have not got any neck issues or spinal issues, then we're going to lift up. Okay, so reach forwards, nod the chin, and just lift head and shoulders. Make sure you feel hollowed in the centre, and continue with the arm beats. 5 for a breath in, and 5 for a breath out. Keep that breath flowing. If your neck starts to ache, think more of lifting that bottom rib than your head. Or turn your chin over the shoulder. And centre, and over the other shoulder. And centre. Let's go for one more of each breath. And let's roll back down. Now, if you were doing that in kneeling or standing, and you can come safely down onto the mat, then come down onto the mat. Otherwise, you're going to sit into a chair for this next stretch. It's going to be hamstrings. So if you have sciatic issues, then I'd like you to try and hold behind your knee, but you probably have been given the stretch in the chair by a physio, so you know the stretch to go into. Flexed foot, lean forwards, okay, and give that sciatic nerve a nice stretch out. Otherwise, we're just going to stretch one leg along the mat, and I'd like you to lift so that heel is pointing at the ceiling, and try and have a straight knee. So if your knee is bent, you're not going to be getting a hamstring stretch. So even if your leg is there, or even lower, but you're feeling a stretch, that's good. Stay with that stretch. And let's bring that down and in. Let's go to the other side. Stretch out and lift, flexed foot, straight knee. And back in. Now we're going to go into shoulder bridge. So I realise if you are sat in a chair, that's not really available to you. So what I'd like you to do instead is go into your chair squats. So that's where you take your arms across the chest, bring your heels back, and you're going to lean slightly forwards and then push just to lift your bottom a fraction off that chair and sit back down with control. Otherwise, we're coming into shoulder bridge. So you're going to curl up, push the knees forwards as you lift. So again, this is really great for most people. However, if you are very kyphotic, so if your head is supported with a block because your head is forwards and your upper back is very rounded, I want you to only come up to the bottom rib, please. Now anchor those feet. Push through the heels. Feel all your toes are connected to the floor. Let's push those knees forwards and curl back down. So make sure you get a feeling of pushing down through the feet rather than pushing back into the shoulders. So we're going to send those knees forwards, lift those hips, pushing forwards, and rolling back down. Let's see if we can do one more. And curling back down. Lovely. From there we're going to go into toe taps, and again I'm going to give you different variations. If you're sat in a chair, you're going to simply pick one leg up and place it back down, but I want you to make sure that you stay on your sitting bones and you don't rock backwards into the chair. You can add in that opposite arm as well, okay, but otherwise we're going to start with one leg lifted. And as you push that toe forwards, you're going to tap your thumb on the mat behind you and bring it back. Shoulder issues, listen to your shoulders. And just notice what that other leg is doing. Does it feel like it's wobbling all over the place, or does it feel very still and anchored? So if you're doing one leg at a time, whether that's lying down or seated, we're going to change legs now. So let's tap that toe and pull back up. So it's that feeling of spine staying still, keeping that neutral arch. you to repeat those if you have osteoporosis, if you have a diastasis, a hernia or a prolapse, or you have a spinal issue where you've been told you need to build up your abdominals. So you're going to stay with that single leg either in seated or lying down. However, if it's appropriate for you to move on, we're going to take a breath in, take a breath out, bring the other leg up. Can you stay neutral? Take that first leg down and the second leg down. Let's change sides. Inhale, exhale, down and down. Inhale, exhale. So you're doing 4 on each side if you're doing it single leg. Inhale and exhale, and down and down. Wonderful. Okay, from there we are going to go into knee circles. Again, I'm going to add in some variations for you. So if you are in a chair, then yes, absolutely you can do these. If you've had a hip replacement, you're going to do a semicircle out to the side and not bring your knee across your body. Okay, let's take the hands onto the hip bones. If you're in seated, that might not be available, but you can feel that you're on your sitting bones instead. Now let's bring one leg up and think about the other leg. We're going to create some stillness and strength there. Anchor through the foot and then visualising a little T-plate here. We're going to try and trace our knee around the edge of that plate without anything else moving. So let's take that knee out and round. So this is about both legs. Don't just focus on the one that's moving, that's supposed to be moving. Focus on the one that's also supposed to be staying still. Is it staying still? That all comes from your core. Let's reverse that circle now. Round the other way. Down. Fantastic. Repeating on the other side. So let's focus on the leg that's going to stay still. Spread the toes out. Anchor the foot and create that sense of strength and stillness in that leg. Let's bring the other leg up and visualise either that full circle or that semicircle out at the side. And let's go round. Take your time with this. And let's go around the other way. We've got one more circle to go. Down. Wonderful. And then do whatever your body feels it needs. Does it want a big stretch out or a big hug in? Give it a little moment, and then when you're ready to, we're going to safely come up, and this is where we're going to go into 4-point position. So if you are using a chair, you're going to come up into standing, and I would like you to be holding your chair. A kitchen counter will do, or a wall. But otherwise we're going to come into that 4-point position, hands and knees. If this isn't available to you with your hands, onto fists or arms resting on a sturdy coffee table. Let's lengthen out through the spine, and we're going to go into cat pedals. Let's just check for locked elbows. If anything, soften down into them so that you feel your arm muscles are working rather than your joints taking all the strain. I think I'm going to come onto the diagonal a little bit there because I realise I'm going out of shot a touch with my head. That's probably better as long as I can fully extend my leg. So let's press down into one hand and hover the other hand off the floor. Inhale and exhale to hover. And hopefully you're feeling your core really switch on. Now if you're on a wall or chair, well, chair you should be okay, wall should be okay. Maybe if you're on a coffee table you might have to take that arm forwards rather than hovering. Now let's extend opposite arm and leg, but with that same feeling of pressing down into the hand. And if it's appropriate for you, if you can, you're going to lift and back in. So we inhale, glide out, exhale, lift. Listen to your lower back. If it is starting to tighten up, feel that you're supporting from underneath instead. Use that strong breath out to draw your tummy in and support your spine. Now one more. Now again, you can do this from the chair or the wall. We're just going to go into some push-ups now. So I would like you to lower your nose between your fingertips and push back up. You do not need to get all the way to the floor. Inhale down and exhale, push up. We're going to take 2 more. And one last one. Now, if you can, sit back to your shell stretch. If you're in a chair, just relax the body forwards. Reach out, active arms. And then on your next breath out, we're going to curl back up. And from there, we're going to come up into standing. So however is safe and appropriate for you. I'm going to use a squat simply because I think it's a very great functional way of getting up off the floor and in a strong, safe way once you can do it. You can all do a squat. So let's push those heels down, lift the chest, and then push through your legs to come all the way back up. And I've come back up into that shadow, haven't I? Need the sun to get a little bit higher. Right, so back into that good standing posture, shoulders back and down, and we're going to take ourselves back to that little arm swing that we did at the beginning. So again, just slowing that breath down. If it's got a little bit quick from those push-ups. And then we're going to add in a little bit of rotation. So, as I said at the beginning, rotation isn't great for your spine, so certain spinal conditions you've been told not to do forced rotation, particularly osteoporosis. I want you to let your hips move. Otherwise, we're just going to take it from above the hips, turn and stretch. Rotate and stretch. It's not a big lift of that back arm. And then we're all going to let those hips lift. Lift, twist. Shoulders, hips. Just take a big stretch and swing it back again. Let's go to the other side. Shoulders and then hips. And feet, let everything move. And back. One more. And back. And let's finish with a nice side stretch. So standing tall, arm across the shoulder for shoulder issues. Otherwise, let's reach up and stretch over. And down. Reach and stretch. And down. Let's take an arm circle. And down, and then soft knees, stretch up. Come back to that good standing posture, and again let's just turn the chin over one shoulder, nod it down towards the collarbone, and turn to the other side, nod the chin down, and back to centre, and just finish with a nice shoulder roll and a big long breath. And thank you very much for joining me this morning. I hope you've enjoyed that. Take care, and I will see you again soon.